Alors, bonjour. Hello, Ashley.
Great to be here.
It's great to have you. Thank you so much. This is our reconciliation series with Indigenous people. My name is Marc-André, and I'm in Blessed Sacrament School in Vancouver. And we are trying to start this series and to lead our participating schools to understand what it's all about, and to get the children here can be an example for all the other children across Canada. And we're so thankful that you're joining us today, Ashley Cummings from. Are you in Whitehorse?
Yes, I'm in Whitehorse right now.
Wonderful. I'm just adjusting the microphone. There you go.
Great.
And we will begin if you're okay, please.
I'm glad to.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Hi.
This is Joshua. I'm just making sure the camera is good. It's good to go, Josh.
Hey. Thanks, Joshua.
Good morning, Miss Cummings. We have started this series, Healing and Reconciliation, with a very sincere heart. We are just only becoming more and more aware of the long history of pain when it comes to our shared history and the long journey still ahead. When you hear healing and reconciliation, or truth, healing, and reconciliation, what comes to your mind? We know not everything is rosy right now. It's okay for you to talk to us straight.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is my mom. My Anana, she went to a residential school. So this history is, it's very close to me and my family. I know quite a few people who have gone to residential school. So it's very heartbreaking to know the hard history of residential schools and all the other historical traumas that have been placed upon Indigenous peoples. So I'm optimistic about truth and reconciliation. I'm happy to see folks like you doing a lot of really great work to be better towards Indigenous peoples and right the wrongs that has happened in the past. And but of course, there's always a little bit of sadness. I wish we didn't have to go through that.
Your heritage is Inuit. We learned that the term Inuit means people, the people. Maybe you can tell us more about the correct term we should use and about other names for other heritages you may belong to.
So I am Inuk. I'm also a bit Scottish. That's most of my heritage just because of the Hudson's Bay Company. Inuit used to be known as Eskimos. It depends on who you speak to if that's offensive or not. I don't think it's an offensive word. I just don't want to be called it. And some people have tried to call me Eskimo, and I always politely correct them. Some people don't like that, but that's not their decision to make. And so Eskimo is just a very old term that's not used anymore. And we've fought to have ourselves legally called Inuit. And so I want to honor that as much as I can. Like I said, I don't think it's an offensive word. It's just not who I am. Indigenous is the best umbrella term if you're not sure of someone's heritage, but they are Indigenous to North America. And it also is inclusive to other Indigenous regions, such as like the Sami in Finland, Sweden. And so that's probably the best term to use all around the board. Aboriginal is still used a little bit, but it's not the preferred way. It's not offensive. It's just older. So there's lots of different ways to identify Indigenous peoples, and there's Inuit, First Nation, and Métis as underneath the umbrella of Indigenous in Canada. And so Inuit are my people from the high Arctic, and we have very distinct storylines and culture and fashion and all of these other things. First Nation is our biggest group. They're mostly in southern Canada, but even here in Yukon, we're pretty far up north. We still have First Nations folks up here as well. And Métis, they're the newest group. I have to be honest, I don't know the best way to describe how to use that term, just because with the status cards that are coming out now for Métis people, I don't want to misrepresent who they are. So they're a newer group. They're mostly based in Manitoba, a bit in Alberta, and a bit in Nova Scotia, mixed a bit all over the place. And they came when the trappers came. It's a very interesting way of French and First Nations culture kind of mixing together a little bit. But beyond that, I'm not too sure. So I'm happy to be corrected if anyone knows better than me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Ashley, you are listed as an Inuit advocate. What does it mean to you to be an Inuit advocate? Please give us examples of how someone can advocate on behalf of the Inuit and other First People of Canada.
I consider myself an Inuk advocate because I've been fortunate enough to be given a seat at the table on the Prime Minister's Youth Council, for example. I've also been able to speak quite in a few different countries, mostly about my experience as an Inuk woman. And it's definitely a big role, and it's not something I take lightly. But I think advocating on behalf of Inuit is only because I have been fortunate enough to gain a seat at the table to speak to others about our experiences, because we are a pretty small group. We are quite hard to reach, especially like if you're not in the region, you might not know exactly about our culture, about our traditions and anything like that. So it's, I think it's just being a good listener is what advocating becomes, because you have to hear the different views, because my cousins may not have the same view about our problems as, say, my aunties and uncles, just because of the generational stuff. And so you have to listen and take it in, and then you find the best way to display it, to show people the hardships or the good parts of my heritage, and being able to describe it well, as well as representing my people well. I hope I'm doing it well, but I guess that's not for me to determine.
Thank you. And can you tell us about Yukon Society and your current work with them?
So I'm an operations assistant at Yukon. I love working there. I think it's a very fun environment. It's a very happy and healthy community. And so as an operations assistant, I help with setting up and taking down events. I help with workshops that we host in the place. I help with cleaning. I help all of our different community members, whether it's in our makerspace, which is our community wood shop, metal shop kind of area, or co-space, which is our community co-working area. So there's a lot of different businesses based out of there. And so I think the best part of working for them is just the community that's being built, all the great people who are so happy to work together to try and solve problems. Like we just had we called it Design Jam Local. And so we had a bunch of folks in our community and outside of it come together and try and solve retail and tourism related issues in the face of COVID, where we need to do things differently, and how can we support these businesses that rely on tourists a lot. So that's just an example of some of the work we do and some of the events we host, and it's just a lot of fun.
Thank you. You've gone on this amazing journey through the Northwest Passage as a cultural interpreter to learn about and discuss the journeys of Roald Amundsen. Can you tell us more about this incredible experience?
I have been so lucky to be aboard the MS Roald Amundsen with Hurtigruten, and it is an incredible journey to go on the Northwest Passage. Especially, it feels like it's both of my heritages coming together. Like the Northwest Passage is such a big legend, and it's such a huge part of just exploration history, and that's how sorry, I lost my train of thought. But that's how the Hudson's Bay Company ended up coming north, just that exploration. And it has been incredibly beautiful to be able to witness that land firsthand. It's just, yeah, I get flustered with words in this situation because it's such a beautiful trip. And being able to show the best parts of my home to tourists on the cruise ship is amazing. On top of it being the world's first hybrid ship, honoring Roald Amundsen's dream. And yeah, I hope to do it again next year when COVID makes things safer again. And it was an amazing journey to be able to see so much of Inuit Nunangat, my traditional homelands, and the homelands of my relatives.
You have served as a co-chair of the Aboriginal Advisory Council for Kids Help Phone. You have recently become aware of this organization. Do you agree that the service they offer is more important than ever during COVID-19?
I absolutely agree. Being a very strong mental health advocate, I have depression and anxiety that I've gradually learned to manage better and better, especially through counseling. I'm very thankful that I've had access to that. But the problem is that many people don't have access to that. It really breaks my heart thinking of myself when I was younger living in Nunavut and I didn't know where to turn because we don't have mental health services. And also thinking that that's still a problem that exists today. Sorry, I'm tearing up a little bit, but I'm thankful to be on the Kids Help Phone Indigenous Advisory Council because it does give me an opportunity to advocate for folks who can't, especially Inuit who have such high mental illness and suicide rates with such little access to mental health services. So it's having called Kids Help Phone when I was little and when I was having a hard time, and knowing that I work for them and I work to make things better for kids like me when I was little, it feels very powerful and very beautiful. So I'm really thankful that I get to work for them, and also knowing that they're providing an important service for folks who are stuck at home during COVID-19 when it is so hard to be so isolated from the people you love. So I'm really grateful that it exists and we're helping people as much as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You served as a board member of Advocacy Board. We young global citizens agree with you. We think empathy is a way to go for all people. Do you have some advice for us as to how we can show more empathy and emotional intelligence in our dealing with others?
I think a big thing that people forget about is active listening. And we end up taking things personally, or our brain, while we're listening to other people, our brain comments on things. And sometimes you don't need that, because sometimes that brings on judgment. And that might make it hard to be empathetic, and you end up being a bit more apathetic. Like someone's complaining, you might want to respond, well, I don't think that's something worth complaining about, but that's different for everyone. And so I think it's really important to just be a good listener and not ignore your own feelings, but consider the other person's before you add your own comments on it.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
also study at Athabasca University, Bishop's University, and Mount Allison University in psychology. How did your degrees help you in how you relate with young people? Do you think it's an interesting field for young people to discover further?
I think it is a very interesting field. I went to university with the intention of being a mental health counselor, but I did take a different route because all of those universities are for the same degree. I'm still not finished my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. I'm hoping to go back to university soon, but I decided to take a break because I really wanted to be on the ground working for my community. And I wanted to be in that role because I think it's so important to me. The work I like doing has to be with the people I'm helping. And so that was a hard decision to take a break from university, but that doesn't make education any less important. There's so many different fields to go into, and even with being on the cruise ship through the Northwest Passage, that made me realize I might want to go into archaeology. So it's a completely different field from psychology. And I would love to pursue that, but I don't know these days. So it's been an interesting journey for sure. And I'm grateful that I was able to experience education in so many different ways by going to Mount Allison, Bishops, and now Athabasca. So I hope that people understand that there's so many different routes to education and that you don't force yourself through something that might not fit you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You've served with the Prime Minister's Youth Council. We really want to work more with that council. Our ultimate goal is to report to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself about everything we are now learning in these interviews. Please tell children who do not know about it what the Prime Minister's Youth Council is. How was that experience for you? How did you get selected? How can some of us aspire to one day join the Prime Minister's Youth Council?
I so hope that you all get a seat at the table with the Prime Minister's Youth Council. I'm rooting for you all. It was a very powerful experience because at the time I thought I knew a lot about politics. And then as soon as I joined, I realized that was not the case at all. It is an impressive opportunity where youth across Canada are selected to be a part of the Prime Minister's Youth Council, where we directly advise the Prime Minister on issues that youth are passionate about. And being on the council made me realize that really nearly everything is a youth issue. Youth are so passionate and so ready to drive change, especially when the policy will directly affect youth. And so I applied for the Youth Council first in an online form, and then I got denied the first time I applied. But then I thought, well, the worst they can say is no if I apply again. And so I applied and I was lucky enough to get in. So you start with a online form and then you go to a video interview and then you wait and see who gets selected. And the Prime Minister does select based on the video interviews. And so I served on the council alongside 9 other folks on my cohort. And then we had another cohort on either end of us. So we had the cohort 2, I was cohort 3. And just as I was leaving, we were halfway through cohort 4's term. And it's so amazing to see the different ways that I guess our backgrounds contribute to what we're passionate about, as well as how we're able to be leaders alongside our community as we bring stuff forward to the Prime Minister, whether it's mental health or gun violence in Toronto or food insecurities in rural Canada and all of these different issues. So it's, it's a great opportunity. I'm sorry, I think I missed part of your question. What was that?
That was great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you aware of something called the Aboriginal Principles of Learning? It is something students in BC try to keep in our minds and hearts as we study First Nations people, heritage, and culture. One principle in particular says some knowledge is sacred and should be transmitted only in the right way by the right people. Do you agree with this statement? How do you advise us to go about receiving more special wisdom and sacred knowledge?
I think that I do agree with that, I think, because you always learn best from the people that know the content best, the ones that are so passionate about whatever you're talking about, whether it is truth and reconciliation or maybe it's algebra. Someone who really likes what they're talking about, you're going to listen to them better and you're probably going to understand them a bit better. That being said, though, sometimes it's not always accessible. So it's good to learn what you can in whatever situation you might be in, and just to openly listen without judgment, I think, is the best way to move forward, because with different cultures, especially when it's like Indigenous versus non-Indigenous, you might not be able to fully understand the context of it, just because of the circumstance that is needed to create the culture. So I think just being open and just being there to listen and present, I think that's the best way to take in the best lessons when you need it.
Thank you.
Our principal has joined us, Madame Maikai, here at Blessed Sacrament. And Madame Maikai, this is Ashley Cummings, and she's been speaking about her work and the Yukon and Whitehorse as an Inuit advocate. Would you like to say a few words to close the interview?
Hello, Ashley. My name is Ren Maikai. Thank you for taking the time to meet with our students today. I'm very proud of them, as you can imagine. They asked really good questions and they took the time to prepare and to think it through. And these are things that they are passionate about. And also, I want to thank you for representing the youth, for being a voice to the youth, and for your service, for your leadership. An example of leadership is exactly what our young children need as well. And, thank you also for highlighting some of the concerns that you feel are really important in your community and the Aboriginal community. And I strongly believe that when a community has an issue or concern that they are facing and being challenged by, that it is really everybody's concern and it's everybody's challenge, and we need to come together to help and to support all of our communities. We are one together, and that's what we try to teach our students, who are so excited, and we're so happy to see you. We teach them to value one another, to serve their community, and to be the change that they want to see in the world. That's how we can all love one another, which is our values. And thank you for being here. I know it takes a lot for everybody to prepare to come together, but we're so pleased. We wish we did it in person, of course, but given the circumstances, we're still feeling blessed to have had this opportunity with you. And do you have any last words you want to pass on to our kids who are so excited all listening to you?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be able to speak with you all. You had such excellent questions, and I have no doubt you are the future leaders in our country. So thank you for being such good listeners. Thank you for the thoughtful questions, and I hope that I'm able to see you as you grow older and all the amazing change you're going to put in this world. So thank you.
Bravo les élèves. Merci, Monsieur Tremblay. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.